Good afternoon, folks. It's March 1st. It's about 70 degrees. Beautiful day here in North Florida. Doesn't get much better than this, that's for sure. Sitting out here on the back porch enjoying a La Flor Dominica double ligero. I'm butchering the Spanish, but anyway, it's this stick right here. Got a little flattened tip there. Pretty good. I like it. First one of these I've had. I've had La Flor Dominicas before, but not this particular one. Also, today I'm drinking this Penelope Cigar Batch Chapter 1. Pretty good. Yeah, I think it's allocated or limited release, I guess. And so I just happened to be at the store a while back and they had it and heard good things about it. So I bought it. Um, I do recommend it. I enjoy it. I don't drink it too much because I try to save it for days like today. Nice day, but it's pretty good. Um, so today I wanted to talk about I watch a lot of YouTube, like probably a lot of you folks do, and I was watching a video a few days ago about I can't remember the title of it. Something about it's all on you. Um, so it interested me because I like personal responsibility and ownership of things that happen to you and why sometimes, and sometimes we contribute but to our own situation, sometimes we don't, but I kind of interested in that kind of content and see what people say. This was a younger guy, probably in his late 20s, so a little different perspective on life. I'm, I guess, Gen X, as they say, and I don't know what he would be, but um, folks like that usually look at things a little different. They were raised different, the society's different, but not always. Depends on the person. So anyway, I just wanted to see what he had to say. So started off okay, but then he went into a lot of. He particularly picked on Jocko Willink. Sure you know who I'm talking about. The Navy SEAL has a Echelon Front, I think, podcast or and YouTube channel. Pretty good. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you give it a go. He's got a lot of good advice. But anyway, he also wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, which I've read. Um, Pretty good book. Um, Good for young folks to read, I think, if you have kids or something. But anyway, I enjoyed it. But he talked a lot in this book about, kind of owning where you are and what situations you're in. And, but this fella kind of banged on Jocko a little bit, said it's not always, our fault, which is true. You know, Sometimes you get sick, you come down with some kind of cancer, and I don't know, your kids get sick, you lose your job, it's because of layoffs. Some things you can't control, but a lot of things in life you can. Um, we just choose not to, and many of us, including myself at times, I think it's human nature. You just being able to recognize it is the difference, but you take on this victim mindset, and it's the external forces caused me to be this in this situation. They caused me to be broke. They caused me to be out of shape. They caused me to lose my job. It's because that person or that person, without kind of examining yourself and what you could have done different to change the situation. You know, I tried to instill that in my kids. Got two girls and a boy. My youngest is the boy. He's now, I think I talked about it before. He's in his early 20s. He's a police officer, and the same agency me and my dad worked for. So it's kind of interesting seeing how things have changed over the years from when my dad started and while I was there and now while he's there. But he would come to me in school, especially when he was young, and tell me about how the teacher picked on him and was mean to him or called him out for something. And a lot of the other parents, he went to a private school, small private school. We paid for. It's a lot of money, but well worth it. So a lot of those parents took the stance that, you know, you're picking on my kid and you shouldn't be mean to him, and you know it's not his fault. I didn't. I kind of looked at it the way my dad looked at it. You know, I used to tell him, son, there's that teacher's got 25 kids in that class. She don't have time to pick on you. What what did you do to cause it? It'd take a few minutes, but eventually it'd come out that there was some kind of issue or foolishness he was involved in. It's a pool stick over there fell. Sorry about that. Something he was involved in that caused her to pay attention to him and call out his behavior. And then I think it stuck because the older he got, the more he kind of quit coming to me with things. And you know, when he needed money or needed this or needed that, he didn't blame outside forces. He looked at himself and what can I do to change it. And I think a lot of people could use something like that. You know, you that victim mentality is a lot of what's wrong today in our society. Identity politics and this and that, and it's not, you know, what I could have done different to change the situation. Like I said, I think it's human nature to think that, but you got to recognize it. I'm going to do a whole nother video on that, but you know, thinking about predatory lending, you know, blaming banks for giving loans to people who couldn't afford them. And then, you know, these people gets interviewed and say, well, you know, they repossessed my car, or they gave me this loan. Well, you knew you couldn't afford it when you bought it. I got a pretty good story about that from time we were house hunting years ago when kids were little, but I'll make that but again, instead of blaming the banks or blaming the lender, and yeah, they're dirty, they're crooked, they're charging crazy interest and things like, I get it, but ultimately you sign on the dotted line for that loan, knowing what your income is, knowing what the payment's going to be, knowing that you're paying, you know, 50 grand for an $8,000 car, you know, when you include interest and all that over time. You know, at some point you should have looked at that and go, well, that doesn't look right. And you don't have to be, you know, have some kind of college degree in accounting to know that doesn't look right, or no, I can't afford that. You know what your budget is, you know what your income is. Sometimes you have to buy the crappy car that's not as cool and flashy to get you from A to B. Now's not the time to get the fancy car in your life. And then look at what you can do in your life to put yourself in that position instead of blaming other people about why you can't afford it. But I think, like I say, I try not to be, I don't want this channel to be negative. There's already too much negativity in this world. There's plenty of negativity on YouTube if you want to pursue that. I try not to. I try to watch things that are positive. But I think, to me, doing this video, what I'm trying to share is, if you look at things through what I can change and take ownership for the decisions that I made, it can make a positive impact on my life and my family's life. And I can recognize there are things I can do to change the situation we're in. For the salary I made in my life, I made some I'm not rich. We're not rich by any means, but we've made some good decisions and are in a pretty good spot. Not because I made some crazy income. It's because of decisions we made and I made for this family. Wife and I kind of have a captain first mate relationship. I'm running the show, but not without her input and her thoughts. You know, we might not always go with them. Sometimes she's got a better idea, just like a first mate. Hey, boss, maybe we shouldn't do that. But ultimately, it's up to me, and she trusts me to make those decisions. I don't, this isn't. I don't rule with an iron fist. I've earned her respect and her trust to let me lead us in whatever direction that is, whether it's buying a house, where the kids go to school, where we live, things like that. Um, I've earned her trust and respect over the years, and it's been a lot of years. I think I've been married to 33, 34 years, but um, that didn't just come. We didn't start off that way, but that's where we're at now. And been here a long time. But anyway, like I said, I don't want this to be negative. I want this to be positive. I want this to be a positive channel. And I just want to share things that worked for me um, in my life. To I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm sitting here enjoying a cigar and some whiskey. In fact, got too much talking. I haven't even drank any. Sitting by my pool. Um, so these decisions worked out for me. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different set of circumstances they got to deal with. But that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it may take you a different route to get there. But there's no reason why you can't do it. Barring some tragic physical limitations or things like that, kind of sometimes will mess you up. But for the most part, if you're sitting here watching this and you're an able-bodied man, there's no reason why you can't be in a good spot. Look at decisions you made in your life and things you could have. I didn't always make the best decisions. I've got a lot that, looking back, I would have changed and done things a little different. But I had more wins than losses. I had more good decisions than bad ones. And I learned from the bad ones. That's the thing. You go get a bad loan and get yourself in debt, and what do people do? They go get themselves in debt again. I mean, we all know people who have filed bankruptcy several times. It's just not. It's just one bad decision after another. A little bit of immaturity, inability to recognize the errors that they made for whatever reason. But the main thing is just understand that you have control over your life. We don't have control over everything. You get some devastating disease or diagnosis, you can't control that. The cigar, on the other hand, I enjoy them. I know the consequences that may come with it. You don't really inhale it, but people get mouth cancer and things like that. I know, I know it's a possibility. And down the road, if I get, I'm not going to blame anybody but myself. I'm not going to blame the cigar manufacturer. I'm not going to blame influencers or things like. I'm blaming me because I went to the store, I bought this cigar, I lit it, and I smoked it. 100% my fault. So if the C disease comes after me, I'm gonna own it. It is what it is. But on the flip side, if I make a bad decision and lose some money on something, it's my bad decision. It's my bad investment. I didn't. Usually, somewhere in the back of your mind, there's something telling you this probably isn't good. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't listen to it, including me at times. But you got to learn to listen to that voice. If you have some doubts or some reservations, there's usually some reason for that. But anyway, I don't want to make this too long. We're at 14 minutes right now, so I'm just going to spend the rest of the afternoon enjoying this cigar and my Penelope cigar batch. The cool thing about this is, you notice the label. It kind of looks like a cigar band. So awesome. Kind of neat how they did that. But anyway, good bottle if you can find it. I think they're going to come out. I don't know if they had a chapter 2 yet. I can't remember when I got this, but of course every bottle is going to be different, every release. So, who knows next time, but this one's chapter one's pretty good if you could find it anywhere. Anyway, that's all I got for now. I hope you guys have a good week. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And if you have any comments, suggestions, again, I'm still getting started. So if there's something you want to see different or I'm doing wrong, let me know. If I can, I'll fix it. I make these on my iPhone. And I got these little speakers or microphones. So I do the best I can. But any suggestions would be appreciated. I don't edit. I don't want to. It's too much work. I really don't have time for it. So I go start to finish, however it ends up, it ends up. The thing falling over there, it's going to be in here. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good day and make the best of whatever card you're dealt.